Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. Welcome back, listeners, to the finest phototainment in the world. That's right, you're listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, an irreverent look at wedding photography. This podcast, like aspirin, will help you recover from your wedding hangover. Dustin, it is a Wednesday night. It is rumored that Marvel is going to be dropping that new Avengers Infinity War 2, title unconfirmed as of yet, trailer tonight.
Correct. Very
so
true.
The internet might break any second.
We might lose some bandwidth. This is a strong possibility, Steven.
Yeah, but what the listeners don't know is that Dustin and I we have some friends in the business.
That we do.
And we got sent that Avengers Infinity War 2 trailer ahead of time.
We know a guy who knows a guy who switches out the urinal, I think they're called pods, cleaning pods, for a couple of the trailers 2 lots over from somebody who happens to be on craft services for a sitcom that is
You know what we got to do, Dustin?
We
got to get that guy who does the urinal cakes to just start carving Wedding Photo Hangover into the urinal cakes, so then everybody will know about our podcast and they'll get to piss all over it.
Those might sell better on Zazzle than your beer koozies.
So, Dustin, what can we say about Avengers Infinity War 2? I think we're allowed to release the title at this point because our episode won't come out until after the vast public has already seen the trailer, right?
Yep.
The title is actually Avengers thicc-finity War, and they're actually doubling down on Thanos, and he looks 10 times thicker in this new Avengers thing, and early release shows that it is driving everybody just wild with sexual energy. It's very strange. Now, I did think that it was a show for all ages, but it sounds like they're going very rated R with the new one.
See, now, what I read, Steven, was that the entire second movie was going to be a prequel on Thanos. So it's going to end, start where the last one ended, where it's sort of this huge cliffhanger. Everyone's disappearing, spoiler, and then flashback to the birth of Thanos. And the whole time you're just feeling disappointed.
But you're also kind of wondering, wait, did Thanos control this? When Thanos snapped his fingers, did he take control of not just the Marvel Cinema universe, but also of Disney? And now he runs Disney. And now every single thing that comes out from here on out will be Thanos focused. So there is that new Lion King movie coming out. People have seen the trailer now. What they haven't seen is the full movie, where at the end, Thanos comes out, snaps his fingers, and Simba dies. So,
Steven, can we talk just briefly, since we're talking cinema here, on a slightly wedding photo related podcast, about the new PG-13 Deadpool?
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. What is Deadpool?
The production company or whatever was begging Ryan Reynolds to do Deadpool 2 in PG-13 for a wider audience. He refused, made Deadpool the way he wanted, and then...
he wrote and directed that one?
And then he created Deadpool 2 in PG-13 as a limited release for Christmas.
Yeah, no, I've seen the things, the
trailer.
Yeah, the trailer with what's his face.
Because he said he would only make it a PG-13 version if he could duct tape and kidnap
Fred Savage,
and everyone
agreed to the Princess Bride,
and everyone agreed to his demands, and thus we have a PG-13 Deadpool 2.
No, the trailer was very funny,
especially when Fred Savage makes the comments that are you really in the Marvel universe? That was my favorite part.
It's not going to be as good because it's not in the Marvel universe. Yes, that was great. Dustin, let's push straight into follow-up trademark John Siracusa. On our follow-up this week, Dustin, we have... We made the mistake, and it was a mistake, of mentioning Capture One.
Was it a mistake? I feel like the listeners out there deserve to know about such professional grade software.
We made the mistake of mentioning Capture One, and we have a Capture One rep in our Facebook group, Carl Osmond. Is he going to be pissed at us for calling him a Capture One rep? He's definitely not. Capture One rep Carl Osmond in our Facebook group. Dustin asked, or I asked, if there are any deals on Capture One for Black Friday, and Carl had this to say: Steven, I couldn't find any Cyber Monday deals for you with regards to Capture One software. I did ask why. They said professional software do not offer discounts. They said, if you want discounts, go to Adobe. They have lots of amateurs using their software. But back to pro software, they have started working with Fujifilm as they have better color science than Canon. And then he posted a link to an article about how Phase 1, the people who make Capture One, are teaming up with Fujifilm.
I would be curious to get my hands on that new Fuji X. Is it like the XT3 or something like that? Like the try.
Is it the TX99?
TX3T.
Yeah,
TTP,
no. Is this
TPT?
Is this a Terminator movie? Is Fujifilm going to kill us all?
One of them will.
Yeah. More follow up. Dustin, you entered something in the show notes.
Yeah, a friend of the show, Sally Psycho, thought maybe it was worth investigating a recent article that was kind of going viral on the socials, which was a real estate photographer that employed some, dare I say, fitness models for his real estate photography shoot to attract some attention to his open house. And it set the web ablaze, especially in the real estate photography community. And Sally was just, reaching out to share that with me, maybe to encourage a new line of work for me. And I appreciate this. And I appreciate you thinking of me and how I can maybe make a little extra cheddar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Steve to all of my real estate photography shoots, and going to dress him up in different outfits.
I'm going to bring all the sexiest lingerie. I'm talking baby dolls. I'm talking corsets. I'm talking...
Oh, who said anything about sexy? I wanted you walking around like in a dinosaur outfit, or like a Pikachu outfit, or...
That's been done too, dude.
Maybe a unicorn, just like hiding in all of my photos. Maybe just a big golden retriever, Steve?
If the money's there, I'm there.
That's what I like to hear. That's the attitude.
I'll do whatever you want.
Anything for a buck, Steven Van Elk. That's his nickname. Anything for a buck, Van Elk.
You want to put me in all leather and put a gag in my mouth, I'm there.
God. What are you drinking tonight, Steve? What's going down that crisp, tonsilly throat of yours?
Tonsilly? Jeez. What's the resolution on this computer?
8K.
Dustin, tonight we have a beer that I've talked about before. It comes all the way from New Holland, Michigan, and it is... Or did I say New Holland, Michigan? It comes all the way from Holland, Michigan. The brewery is called New Holland. It is the Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. It is one of my favorite beers of all time.
What's that taste like? Yeah, give us the full breath of that.
It's got like a good oaky bourbony like smell to it. The sort of thing that like you drink a sip of it and it's just like you're transported straight to heaven, and you want to keep it on your tongue, but at the same time it is 11%, which is pretty high alcohol by volume for beer.
That is incredible
so
percent.
It does burn a little tiny bit. Like it's not to the level of, like a 20% bottle of cheap liquor burn, but it is a little bit more burn. At least it doesn't have like chili peppers in it or something.
That is true. Now, listeners of the show might follow us on Instagram and Instagram stories, and might have seen Steve sipping on a Great Lakes Christmas Ale, which the listeners out there might know is one of my favorite beers, which is hard to come by here in Indiana, unless your name is Steven Van Elk.
Oh no, my brother bought that. Yeah.
So I happened to have I had a styled shoot today, it's just outside of Fort Wayne at a new venue. And I was right on the Ohio border, Stephen. And you know what I did? I took a little journey across that state line and I picked up my own 6-pack of Great Lakes Christmas Ale. That's
Dustin,
right.
Did you put cinnamon and sugar around the the opening of the beer?
The
top of the bottle.
I did not do that for tonight, Stephen.
But you chastised me for not doing it.
But I will. I didn't have time. We had to record, and I did not have time to prepare my beautifully garnished glass.
Dustin, how does that sweet, sweet Great Lakes Christmas Ale taste?
It's like Christmas. Oh, still my favorite, Stephen.
You know what this means tonight, though, Dustin? This means that we are both drinking great Midwestern beers for great Midwestern men like you and me.
I'll take it. I will take it.
Dustin, let's jump into topics.
Bring it on, my friend. Hey, Steve, but we're getting kind of close to the holidays here, and I don't know if you've heard of this or if you're, looking for that last-minute gift, but I wanted to share a little website with you. GroovyGuyGifts.com. It's been a long-time supporter of the show, and I just think it's a fantastic resource for the listeners out there who are looking to maybe get, the special guy in their lives a little something special for the holidays or anytime, birthday, anniversary, wedding present.
Birth-iversary.
Birth-iversary.
Anniversary.
All of these are great. What Groovy Guy Gifts does is they kind of create personalized gifts for your loved ones, whether it be sort of a personalized bag, wallet, pocket knife, shaving kit. They're, super great ideas on their website. I encourage you to check it out. It is at GroovyGuyGifts.com.
Dustin, can I tell you what I love about Groovy Guy Gifts? They have a whole section of gifts that you can give to your groomsmen, your best buds, the people who second shoot with you, whoever it is, called bar and drinking gifts. And I love that, Dustin. They got a Mug's Life. They love the puns, and so do I. A rock in a wet place.
GroovyGuyGifts.com.
Dustin, have you seen what Sony is releasing sensor-wise?
I have seen it, Stephen, and I'm frankly ecstatic. I'm excited. I've been waiting for a new Sony camera to drop this fall. With it almost being December, I'm worried that one isn't going to come this year. But when I see this, it's enough to just keep me sitting on my chair a little bit longer, Stephen.
Mm-hmm. You think a new camera's coming from Sony before the end of the year?
Oh, they say, I don't exactly know how camera launches are planned. I would think if they were going to do it, they've kind of missed the mark to really secure those Christmas orders. I think if they did it now, they would probably kill their A7R and A7 III orders that they would get before the holiday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I had to wager a guess, I'd imagine they're going to wait till January or February to announce a new camera at this point. But I could be wrong. Sony isn't somebody who typically plays by the normal camera manufacturer set of rules. They could just come right out and just announce it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, Dustin. Not before the end of the year. It's crazy talk. Talk. They missed Black Friday.
Well,
I don't think Sony needs to make Black Friday. I think they're probably in the black already. I don't think they're in the red.
Yeah.
One of the few companies that can probably say that every year.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, 8K. I mean, so for those of you out there who didn't see the Sony announcement.
Wait, which Sony announcement? The sensor announcement, or the one where they said we could make all the way up to f1.0 lenses, but we're just not going to do it?
I did not see that one. That one I didn't see.
That came out today, or maybe yesterday, an amateur photographer. They published an interview with general manager Kenji Tanaka from with the Sony Digital Imaging Business Group. And in it,
Uh-huh.
he said we could make f1.0 lenses, but it wouldn't make business sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially after listening to, I think it was Sam Hurd and Nathan's podcast, the Epic podcast, talk about why a lot of these Nikon and Canon companies that are going with the mirrorless systems, moving into that direction, aren't releasing low light lenses like 1.4 lenses right out the gate. They're going with 1.8 lenses because they'll get people to buy those 1.8 lenses, and then once they do roll out the 1.4 and 1.2 lenses, people will buy those ones too for a higher price point.
I'm sorry. What the hell are you babbling on about? Nikon released a 0.95, the 58 millimeter 0.95.
Isn't it a manual focus?
Um,
0.95?
Doesn't. I'm just saying they're releasing faster glass than that. And Canon released an f1.2, 1.2.
For the new mirrorless?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it any good?
If it's as good as the f1.2 for the old system, then I would say it's spectacular. It's a great looking lens.
Yeah, I would be curious to get my hands on that Canon system just to play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try it out. I think I'm still in the Sony camp though, especially with this announcement. So, as Steve was alluding to earlier, the announcement came out that they were releasing 2 sensors for their new camera line.
But doesn't Nikon still use the Sony sensors?
Correct.
And these Sony sensors that are being released are being sold to other camera manufacturers. So
correct.
You can stay Sony, but you could also be Nikon and get the same advantages out of those sensors.
Correct. So the new sensors are going to be a 60 megapixel capable sensor. So that doesn't mean it necessarily will be 60 effective megapixels with 16 channels shooting at 4.6 frames per second at 16-bit or 12 frames per second at 14-bit.
Or now get to the part you really like, the video part, huh?
Whopping 8K at 30 frames.
Oh, no. Or 60 frames, buddy.
60 frames a second at 4K.
No, Dustin, I just want to say this. Who loves you? Who put this in the show notes just for you?
300p. What does that even mean? You're a video guy. What does that even mean?
I'm guessing that's a very high frame rate.
HD 300.
Yes, that's it. Full HD. That sounds right. Full high definition. Full high dynamic.
Oh.
No, it doesn't say HDR.
Damn.
Yeah, I've never heard FHD before. I'm guessing it's full HD, so 1920 by 1080. But I don't know.
At 300p, like 300 frames per second?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Oh, so like super slow-mo is what I'm guessing.
Yes. It's very, very, very slow. That'll be slower than what you got now, 120.
I think, 120 or 180, something like that. And the other sensor they're going to be dropping is a 36 megapixel that will still be able to shoot, it looks like 60 frames per second at 10-bit. And on-chip phase detection autofocus, which I hear is really good. I don't really know a whole lot about what that means. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm really excited to see what Sony's got coming down the pipelines here in the coming months.
Just looked it up. FHD means it's 1080p. So it's not 720p. So it's full HD. Making use of all those pixels, all 2 million of them. That would be awesome. 300 frames per second at 1920 by 1080. It's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've taken care of you. I've put in that very, very horrible thing, gear talk, that I hate to do. Mm-hmm. And so let's move on to our next topic. Oh, damn it, Dustin.
Damn it. What's wrong, Steve? What?
No, you got to take this. I'm not talking about this.
What's got you all flustered?
This isn't even camera related. You just,
I know it's not, Steve, but I just wanted to let you know. I felt like it was my civic duty to inform you that Google announced their own line of cell phones. Well, not really cell phones, their own cell phone plan. Something that people have been eagerly awaiting.
Since I was in high school.
Yeah, something.
Literally, when I
everyone's
was in high school, Google said they were going to roll out new cell phones with a free plan that would use their network. And it's taken, oh my gosh, how long ago? It's taken over 15 years for this to become a website that you can sign up for something that will exist possibly in the future.
correct.
All right, now that we've got that boring gear tangential, but not camera tangential.
But real quick, Steve, can we just talk about the name? I love the name.
GoogleFi?
GoogleFi.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet. All right.
So on another photography podcast I listened to, one of the podcasters said that they were making an album. I'm sorry, Dustin. I listened to other podcasts. I'm cheating on you.
On us.
Making an album
dirty.
for a client using another photographer's photos. I thought this sounded kind of strange. And so I asked the podcaster, if they had to get a copyright lease from the photographer to make the album, since they'd be using these photos for commercial use and creating a derivative work. The podcaster told me that he had the print rights, and the client had print rights in digital files, that he was just acting as a printer. I didn't think that was an acceptable answer personally, because print rights aren't the same as copyrights. And when you're creating an album, you are going to have to do things with regard to the way you lay pages out and everything that are technically a derivative work of another artist's creative work. So you actually, I looked into it some more, and what you actually need is you need more permission. You need the photographer who took the photos to relinquish some of their like copyright permissions to you or license them to you if you want to make an album from their photos. Dustin, you seem to already be very clued into this, but most people online did not seem to be. Most people seem to think it was completely acceptable from what I saw.
Well, I've had this situation arise a few years back.
Your photos, or somebody asked you to make the album?
Somebody asked us to make the album, and because we include albums in our packages, and we had a interesting scenario where a Indian wedding we did, it was a multi-day affair, that hired us, but I made it clear to them that the last day of the event, we were already booked and we would be unable. It was like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the Saturday we were already booked, but we would be able to do the video portion.
You didn't hire your best friend Steve Van Oak to come shoot that?
I did not.
Dustin, I'm so hurt.
This was many, many moons ago.
Dustin.
But we did the photo portion and the video portion for the entire event except for the last day, and they hired someone else for the last day. And then afterwards, because our package included a wedding album, they wanted to incorporate the photos from the other photographer on the last day in with their book, which I understood. I mean, they want to kind of keep it all together. But I told them, hey, I'm going to need permission from your other photographer, and they weren't very good. So it's like I didn't really want to put them with my photos.
Really?
They were okay.
That's how you're going to do them?
They were okay. It's just, it was kind of like a super traditional photographer, and I don't know, just wasn't like my cup of tea.
You really wish that you had recommended me, don't you?
I always wish I recommended you, Steven. But yeah, I think like everyone in the world was booked that day. It was like a Saturday in June, because I also had to find a second shooter to shoot with me because Corinne was doing the video.
What, Corinne does video?
That day she did.
How long ago was this? She doesn't do any video.
That day she did.
Wow, this is a crazy story.
The photographer, essentially, it ended up, after I told her like, hey, this is the package you had with the album. It's, by the time you add all the pictures in, you're going to want, I think what will make the most sense is if I just do a book on the first 2 days of the event, and then you order an album of the third day from the other photographer. And so that's what they ended up doing. So I just said, like, let's just make a classic black album. And
what is a classic black album?
Like a 10 by 10 black leather, the name on the cover.
All photos are black and white.
Exactly.
Or all pages, just you take the photos and crank that exposure way down and just give them a black print, but they can imagine what photo would have been there.
See, that's how you edit your photos. Mine have a little bit more vibrance going on.
It's called art, Dustin, when I do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm like, no, look, you can faintly see the outline of your bride's eye. Faintly. It's mostly just black, but faintly it's in there. And that's how you know this is a photo of just her. Dustin from my wife, Jennifer Van Alk.
My wife.
Jen sent me a video of a lady yelling at photographers in a park caught on camera. Have you watched this?
I've not watched this.
We're going to put a link to this in the show notes so that people can watch this. I'm going to take a slight break here so Dustin can watch this.
Who's the guy in the golf cart?
The guy in the golf cart is the park security or whatever. He works for the park, and he tells them at some point in time that everything they're doing is legal. They're allowed to be there.
This is not your studio. Call the police.
I might just leave all this audio in. Listening to you listen to it is great.
We're taking pictures. Oh, there's babies crying.
Yes, there are.
Because they're doing like a family photo session. Now they're stalking this woman.
Yeah, it gets kind of weird at the end, doesn't it?
Takes an interesting twist.
Yeah. So the video starts out with the lady basically coming out and she just gets out of her car and starts yelling at some photographers in a park, saying, as Dustin already relayed to us, this is not your studio and other things.
That's hilarious.
So apparently the lady is upset because the other day there were 6 photographers in the park, and now there's this other photographer in the park, and this photographer is doing a shoot with a family, and the lady proceeds to yell at them to the point where it makes the children cry.
Can we take this topic back about 2 stops though, and can we, as Jennifer?
So we're at like a f1.8, you'd say, and
yep.
We're going back 2 stops. Where does that bring us to?
I just wanted to kind of follow up a little on the fact to see how Jennifer is reacting to my wife.
She loves it. That's how That's how I talk to her all the time. It's how I always refer to her. Just a sec. My wife.
Oh, nothing.
No, you can hear it. She was like, Borat. Right back at me. Yeah, it was good. It's good.
All right, just curious.
No, I actually think she's asleep. Probably just woke her up. She's probably pissed off.
She's probably gonna come in with a knife now. Cool. Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
Dustin, what is your take on photographers doing shoots at parks?
Well, being that I live in a small town in upstate Indiana, that's right.
Really romanticizing Fort Wayne there.
Well, I feel like people refer to Syracuse and Buffalo as like upstate New York, so I'm trying to like create a following around the.
They refer to anything
Indiana.
That's not New York City as upstate New York.
Exactly. So anything that's not Indianapolis is now considered upstate Indiana.
Yeah, even down south?
Yeah, sure. Downstate Indiana?
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah. But I mean, that's, I'd say, where we do, 70 to 80% of our shoots are at public parks. Even on wedding days. That's where we do a lot of the bridal portraits and bridal party stuff, first look, etc. And, people in Fort Wayne don't go to parks, so typically we kind of have the run of it. And I say in the fall.
Why don't they go to parks?
I don't know, they're too busy playing their video games.
Is it because parks are scary in Fort Wayne? Because last time I was there at a park in Fort Wayne, I was told it was not a good place to be.
What? Which park were you at?
Some park with tennis courts and basketball courts, and Jen dropped her phone, and some guy picked her phone up and put it in his van, and then after we spent 45 minutes looking for it, he finally felt like bad and gave it back to her. Like he watched her like walking around the park looking for her phone the whole time, and then
I need to know the name of this park because obviously
Any Park Fort Wayne, I think is what it was called.
any
Park.
Fort Wayne.
Any park
Okay.
except the park by the zoo, Fort Wayne. That's what it's called.
I wouldn't really want to hang around the park by the zoo. That's not the greatest park.
It's not the greatest park, or it's not the greatest area? Which one?
Not the greatest area.
Mm-hmm.
That's where one of my rental properties is.
If you're listening to this podcast and you live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you know that you can trust Little Trump Properties, managed by Dustin McKibben. He's got properties in not the greatest areas.
That's right. I don't know. Where do you like to shoot, Steve? I mean, do you shoot in parks?
We shoot a lot in parks, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been seeing a lot of this backlash to photographers shooting in parks. And I don't really understand it. Like, what happened to this lady the other day when there were 6 photographers out there? Did a photographer like push her child off a slide or something? Or I don't understand why people get so upset that other people are working in a public area.
Well, I think what we as photographers are starting to see, though, too, is this shift in a lot of places that we normally didn't have to pay to take pictures in, are starting to create like photo passes that they are starting to make photographers have to purchase in order to essentially create commercial gains from their property. It's not so much public parks, but private parks such as like museum grounds and like conservatories, botanical gardens, things like that. And that's kind of been a bit of a pain in the ass. I kind of like it because it does discourage a lot of photographers. So the people that you are seeing there are people who have paid normally a fee, but it does kind of make it sort of that conversation when you have to tell a couple like, hey, it's going to be $50 extra if we shoot at this museum. I think it's worth it, but it's, up to you guys and your budget.
You guys will be paying that $50, even though I'm the one who thinks it's worth it. You're on the hook.
Precisely. That's why I love the Indianapolis Museum of Art. But we did, one of the parks we go to a lot in Fort Wayne, they do charge a fee. And this year is the first year we actually did get a annual membership. So that I've been pretty happy about, because every year we go to these various places and I don't get a membership because I'm like, oh, we're not actually going to go that much. And I always end up looking back at the year and I'm like, God, we went there like 80 times. I wish I had gotten a membership, would have paid for itself in the first like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Do you guys have any memberships at any of the places in Indy?
We don't have any memberships because we don't shoot at any one place enough, but we shoot at Eagle Creek a lot, which I think requires some sort of monetary payment if you're shooting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also shoot at the IMA a lot, which requires it.
Yeah, I don't like Eagle Creek, but I do love the IMA.
Why would you say that? Eagle Creek is a beautiful place.
Not a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, who would want to go to a park with like just vast amounts of water, beautiful trees, just millions of gorgeous places to shoot? I mean, I guess if you live in Fort Wayne,
there were so many mosquitoes. There were so many mosquitoes there when I went.
Well, you got to wear that bug repellent. That is true.
Yeah, it was like mosquito heaven. There were a lot of raccoons.
It's a park, Dustin.
I guess we take care of our parks to a point where there isn't raccoons.
You euthanize the animals in your parks. And that is what photographers are paying for in Fort Wayne. They're paying for those raccoons to get euthanized. So just remember, parks.
The membership comes with jerky. Comes with jerky.
Gross.
I don't know what kind of jerky. It's not labeled.
It's dead bodies. It's Fort Wayne.
Mystery meat. Oh, are we doing another topic?
No, let's move on to some Q&A. Dustin, real quick before we head into Q&A though.
Yeah. What do you got, Steve?
I need you to get up on your brand stand. We're going to do a little out-of-person sales.
Brand stand? Hold on, let me get up there. Oops. All right, I'm up here.
Okay, no, you're up now. You fell off. Now you're back up.
Oopsie, yep, I'm up here.
Tailor Brands is branding that doesn't have to be expensive. Tailor Brands was created to help entrepreneurs and small business owners, just like almost all of our listeners, design effective branding materials at a minimal cost while requiring no previous knowledge. Tailor Brands offers easy-to-use automated logo design and brand building services. This is going to help all of you guys roll out some new businesses this upcoming winter. Dustin told me he wants to roll out something called Little Quesadilla in our last episode, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, Dustin, you've actually used Tailor Brands to make a logo for you before. How easy was it?
Oh, it was incredibly easy. Whenever we're working with new clients, we always go to Tailor Brands first as our first one-stop shop for logo and branding creation. In fact, my sister is starting her own dog grooming, and I just recommended Tailor Brands to her the other day as a go-to for getting some new business cards made.
And you know why Dustin is recommending this? Because their branding platform is so simple and so easy. They ask users questions to determine their design preferences. Afterwards, their algorithm generates a few logo samples from which users can choose the most fitting to their business and further personalize them to their needs. With a Tailor Brand subscription, Dustin, your sister, when she's starting her own dog grooming business, she can receive additional assets to complete her business's brand identity, as well as ongoing services to automate the work and make it easier on social media. These services include social posts, Facebook ads, social covers, business cards, presentations, and more. Tailor Brands offers a full branding experience, all you need for the perfect branding at a minimal cost. And Dustin, when you told your sister to jump on a Tailor Brands to make a new logo for her new company that she's making, did you tell her to use promo code GETYOURLOGO? It includes 30% off all packages at Tailor Brands.
I sure did. I sure did tell her that, Stephen.
And did you tell her to go to tailorbrands.com? That's www.tailorBrands.com. Promo code GETYOURLOGO. Let's do some Q&A.
But Steve.
Stephen Pike from our very own Facebook group. That's the Wedding Hangover Facebook group on Facebook. Where else would it be?
Could be anywhere.
Advice hugely appreciated. I have been booked by a major UK charity to photograph a Christmas event for them. They sent my contract to their legal team before returning it to me. No big deal. Most of the bigger organizations I have worked for have done the same thing. However, in this instance, my contract has been so significantly amended, it's barely worth having at all. I always work damn hard and take all professional steps to minimize the chances of anything going wrong. But with all the will in the world, things can go wrong, and the contract is a safety net in case of the worst happening. Now my net has some big holes in it. Can I challenge them? Should I even turn the job down?
Well, as someone, Stephen, that has had people redline a lot of things in my contract before, these are the things, looking back at those situations, that come to my mind, that have gone through my brain. And you have to ask yourself, is first off, is the amount of money you're getting paid worth the extra risk that you might be taking? Is this a client that is worth, having, for future revenue earned, for, future events, future relationship type things? Because if it's not, then yeah, just turn it down, move on. But what you can also do, and what I've heard other people do in this situation, is charge more. Be like, yeah, I'm absolutely willing to amend my contract to incur more risk. On my end, based upon whatever it is they redlined, it's hard for me to give advice without knowing, exactly what they amended and changed in your contract. But yes, also remember, the lawyer's job of the nonprofit is to protect the nonprofit and not you, where they're going to take all liability away from the nonprofit. So you could always just say, that's fine, we can amend these things, but I'm going to have to take out a slightly bigger insurance policy for that day or for this event on my part, and that's going to cost X. So yeah, as long as you guys are willing to cover that, and then just mark that up for pain in the ass fee. And I don't know, what are your thoughts, Steve? I hate having people want changes to my contract.
This is the only part of like the contract changes that he was really put off by. It was the force majeure, where he says, though he uses equipment in full working order, carries backup equipment, and keeps multiple copies of the digital files, in the unlikely event of photographic or computer equipment failure, storm, flood, riot, act of God, or any other force majeure event, injury or sickness beyond Pike Photography's control, the company's liability shall be limited to a full refund of all monies paid. And the company wanted to take out photographic or computer equipment failure and injury or sickness beyond Pike Photography's control from the contract. So basically what they're saying is, if your gear or your computer fails and you lose the photos, we want to be able to sue you for more than what we paid you. Or if you get sick.
Man, I don't know. It's that's something that I think for me would be a non-negotiable. I don't think I'd want to open myself up to that level of liability, especially knowing that it's somebody who already has an in-house legal team.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's much easier for them to litigate. I mean, obviously, you know and I know there's very minute chance that anything would happen. But God, if something did, that would be awful.
So here's what I would do. It's the holiday season. We're all in a festive mood, aren't we, Dustin? This is a Christmas party. You know what I'm saying?
Festivus for the rest of us, Stephen.
Walk into the company and be like, look, we can take that part out that you want taken out. Mm-hmm. And then just go up to the part where, you know, there's protections for the company in case, you know, whatever you do wrong. Fold that up into a little triangle. Pull out some scissors and just cut some geometric patterns in it. And then unfold it. And you've got a beautiful snowflake to show them. And be like, and now you guys can sign this one after you've cut out all the words.
That is true. That would be a reasonable compromise.
Yeah.
You could also take that a step further, maybe perhaps not cut a snowflake out of the contract, and you could add things like, if I'm not served dinner at a precise temperature to my liking, I will be awarded double my contracted price, or something to the nature of, if my parking is not validated to my standards of Pike Photography, Tesla. I demand a Tesla.
I demand a full mani-pedi the next day. I demand a Tesla to pick me up and drop me off afterwards. Yeah, because what they're asking for is pretty ridiculous.
And then explain to them, if you're going to put ridiculous things into my contract, I'm just going to add more ridiculous things. And we can play this game and waste this poor client's money on its legal fees, or we can just sign this contract and act like adults.
I like that. Playing hardball.
It's the only way I like my balls.
Oh, gosh.
I'm cutting that out. Just like the power of saying that, even though I have no power.
That is true. I'm leaving all that in. Now that we know how Dustin likes his balls.
Oh, Steven. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. I think I like that. Is just to go ahead and just submit the contract back to them with the changes that they modified, but adding in liabilities on their part, and just see if that floats through.
Make them liable in case your computer equipment fails.
Yeah, there you go. Just add like a sub-clause that you're willing to take on liability as long as they're willing to supply the computer equipment. And the backup equipment.
Yeah.
And the replacement for Pike Photography in the event Pike Photography can't be there. You're willing to then take responsibility for their responsibility.
Sounds like a real good way to not get hired. But also
like a circle jerk.
A great way to get your point across to that legal team that you're not going to be jerked around.
And great content for our podcast, Stephen.
Dustin, let's do another question. This one.
Matthew Dartford from our very own top secret Facebook group asked the question.
Murdering you.
I know you are, but I love it. So I was chatting with another wedding photographer, a very good one as it goes, and he mentioned he does not use flash at all, but uses a little something called roto lights. Even for first dances, he will just set a couple up, and I was wondering if anyone here has any thoughts on them or has any experience on using them. By the way, it's very nice to hear my questions on the podcast. Smiley face. Matthew Dartford. Steven,
Yeah, what's up?
have you ever had any experience with rotolights?
Absolutely not, Dustin. Have you ever had any experience with rotolights?
This is the busy typing of Steven and I Googling rotolight.
Rotolight Neo 2 is a revolutionary all-in-one camera, continuous LED light, and HSS flash. So saying that he doesn't use off-camera flash, he uses rotolights, could mean he's still using off-camera flash? Like, this is where I got tripped up on the question. This is why
they're really expensive.
I wasn't going to select it, but you did.
I couldn't leave Matthew hanging anymore. This was a question he really cared about.
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah, and he still needs to know. It takes V-mount batteries, which I have.
I'm guessing what Matthew's getting at is that they use the rotolights as continuous lights. They don't use them as flash.
Where do you
Dustin,
see that they do flash?
I'm looking at a YouTube video for the Rotolight Neo 2 revolutionary all-in-one on-camera continuous LED light and HSS flash. And it is flashing. I'm watching it flash in the YouTube video. I'm watching right now.
So you're just sitting there watching a light strobe you in the eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that called? NEO?
Yeah. The Neo 2.
Neo 2.
It was the first thing that popped up when I Googled Rotolight.
Yeah, all the ones I'm seeing are just LED. Neo 2 LED.
So neither Dustin nor I has any experience with rotolights, as you may have guessed by now if you're listening.
Looks like it takes an Elinchrom receiver
Yes.
and syncs at 8,000th of a second.
But here's something I will say. Dustin uses LED lights all the time when he's shooting photography. I've seen him do it.
Do I?
Yeah.
Is that what I use?
All the time when I'm shooting video, you pull out a little LED light when you're capturing details. You do not use flash. Hardly ever.
Yeah. Well, it's partially because typically I'm having someone hold the light, and it's
They could hold a
easier
flash too.
I know, but it's easier for me to coach someone through what I'm after when they're holding a constant light source versus a flash. Steve's probably thinking, Dustin, it's also just as easy for you to move around a light stand than hire someone to just hold a light. And Steve, I just like people. I like working with people.
You like making your wife do things for you like a slave because, let's be honest, you're using your wife whenever I've seen it happen.
Isn't that marriage, Steve?
So I was doing video a little while back, working with a photographer, and the photographer told me that she doesn't bring flashes to her weddings because she doesn't want to deal with the hassle of it. To which I said, what do you do when there's not a videographer there with lights? And she said, oh, the DJ usually has lights. So this is somebody who just didn't know how to use off-camera flash and didn't want to invest the time in it, which I understand. Like, everything with your business that you have to do to learn something new is time where you could be working on something to make yourself money. So it's taken away from that. So you have to weigh, how much will I be able to raise my prices, or how many more clients will I book if I start doing this thing? And I think, as Dustin would tell you, 0 more clients is what Dustin thinks you will gain if you use off-camera flash, which is why he doesn't use it anymore.
Exactly.
Except Dustin does use it, but he likes to pretend like he doesn't.
I don't use it for receptions, which is where I think 90% of the people who do off-camera flash use it.
Typically, when Jen and I are doing off-camera flash and there's a videographer there, we're either finding a way to work around their lights, to use their lights as like rim lights or whatever, or we're just cranking our flashes up and completely blowing their lights out of the water. Because typical videographers we've found don't have LEDs that can change the color temperature. So they can't match whatever the temperature of the like tungsten lights are and stuff. So it either is like a blue light behind them or like a super orange light behind them. Like it just doesn't match the room.
Yeah, see, we use tungsten video lights when we're doing video to match the room light, Steve. Thinking ahead for you, bud.
Thank you, Dustin.
But next year we will be switching to LEDs for our video lights on the dance floor, which will be color changeable, color temperature changeable.
Yes, our LED lights for video are color temperature changeable as well. And when I'm shooting video while Jen's shooting photo, she still uses her flashes, but we match the video lights to what the flashes will be at. So everything should hopefully look consistent, unless we screw something up.
Which, let's be honest,
happens sometimes. Yeah, that's true. Everybody screws up sometimes, but is that where you're getting at?
That's where I'm going. So to answer your question, neither one of us have ever used these Rotolights. Rotolight, if you are listening, feel free to send Steven and I the Neo 2 LED 3-light kit with Pelican case.
No, that'd be great.
And we'll give it a shot. We'll try it out. Let you guys know how it is. And they look, I'm not going to lie, they look pretty cool.
As far, Matthew, as using a continuous light source for when you're doing shots is, like, that's fine. It doesn't matter. The problem I've run into with video using continuous light sources is once the first dance is over and the open dancing starts, people complain about the fact that you have lights on and say they don't want to dance with those lights on and they want you to turn them off. And if you turn them off, then of course you don't get as good looking footage because it's too dark typically. But
that's why
that would be
someone
the big
with a
thing.
separate video company, I say, oh, God, you're right. I totally understand your complaint. Unfortunately, I'm just the photographer. You're going to have to take that up with the videographer.
Yeah, they can still get onto Facebook and leave you a bad review for your video company, Dustin.
And then that's when, if they go to the videographer, he says, oh, gosh, you're right. I understand your complaint. And I give 0 fucks.
So that's some very bad advice from Dustin. A staple of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast. Dustin's bad advice.
Every Thursday on This Is Us. Where I was going with that. Sleep deprived.
Matthew, it's perfectly fine to use continuous lights. You can see what it's going to look like. That's why Dustin does it for details. Not just because it's easier to direct them, but because he's giving them directions based on what the light looks like. And if they can't see it, they don't know what they're doing when they move the light around, which is why it's easier for him to give them directions. So it's fine to use a continuous light. Just be aware that people won't necessarily be super pumped once the dancing starts to have a continuous light. People aren't always pumped to have off-camera flash though either. A lot of people find that off-putting when they're trying to get their groove on, because a lot of people just find the presence of cameras in general to be off-putting when they're trying to dance. I think the presence of eyeballs makes it off-putting to try to dance personally, but whatever. If there could just be like a tray when people enter the reception and they can just pull their eyeballs out, plop them down, pick them up when they walk out, that'd be great.
It seems a bit harsh, Steven. I think something where they walk in and everyone's handed blackout glasses.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, I don't like it as much as pulling your eyeballs out. The visual there is kind of cool. But yeah, blackout glasses is nice too.
As a photographer, my eyeballs are my money makers. So I got these bad boys insured for more than what my wife's life insurance policy is.
You just put in some cyber eyeballs, right? That's the future we live in now.
Cyberballs. It's the name of my new company.
Are the cyberballs hard, Dustin?
It's medical. It's a medical device company that I'm starting, Steven. If you want to invest and get in on the ground floor, it's called Cyberballs. CB for short.
Okay, buddy. Man, all right, here we go. Another question. Annie from the Facebook groups, from a random Facebook group, says, advice needed. I recently did a wedding where the bride was a bit of a nightmare, and her response to the photos I've sent her is, can I be picky about a few pictures? Like smoothing
Yes.
underarm wrinkles. I'm just
Absolutely.
wondering how people would respond to this. I have worked tirelessly, carefully editing over 800 photos. It's a very big wedding. And I know if I start retouching one, she'll have an issue with all of them, and it'll be never ending. I've never had this issue with a bride before, aside from one very nicely asking if I could edit out a scar/bruise on her leg in just 2 shots, which I happily did. But underarm wrinkles?
Hey, everybody's got their issue, man. For me, it's my nose fat. I like to have people just tuck that in for me.
Your nose fat. Dustin, what would you do?
I don't know. I've never really had any like crazy requests. I always get that on the wedding day, like a mom comes up to me, or like last week, and we had a bridesmaid come up to us, and they're like, "Hey, I have really sensitive skin, and she was like breaking out from the bridesmaid dress around her neck, and she was like, "Hey, can you edit all the photos that I'm in?" Like she's being like super serious, and I was like, "Yeah, no." I was like, I'm just going to not put you in any of the photos. No, I didn't say that. No, he's like, oh, I always try to play it off like, oh, it's going to be fine. You won't even notice.
But then you deliver photos where they really notice.
And you never want to commit to editing something that you don't plan on editing.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they'll come back at you and be like, hey, at the wedding day, you promised you were going to edit me.
Why would you ever agree to do something you don't plan on doing, Dustin?
I don't, but I've known people, friends of mine, who have gotten caught up in that situation where like a mom is, says something like, oh, I've got these turkey arms. Can you edit these? And and then they don't do it. And the mom comes back and they're find themselves editing like 500 turkey arms. Making me hungry here just thinking about that. But yeah.
I believe they're called wings.
I like
Turkeys don't have arms. I'm sorry, I can't sit here and let you disparage turkeys anymore. This is ridiculous. It was just Thanksgiving.
Can't let you butcher the anatomy of a turkey.
Haven't we all done that enough?
Is this something we haven't done that I think you guys have done that I really like and really I think is a good idea?
No. Just need a moment. No, I need a moment. You're about to say something. I gotta get prepared for this. You said you really like this thing Jen and I do.
It's probably more Jen than you, though.
This moment.
Probably more your wife.
First, let me savor the moment, and then Dustin, I'll let you know if it's my wife or me.
Because you guys, I think, have somewhere in your contract. I mean, I've never actually seen your contract, but I think you've talked about this in length on the podcast, where you actually have something in writing, kind of laying out some groundwork for special request editing. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a leg to stand on when some sort of request like this comes in.
Damn it, Dustin.
Direct
No,
them.
this isn't making me happy. Oh, man, this is actually follow-up I forgot to put in the episode because Cortland Wilson asked me about this today, and I was digging through our contract trying to find it, and we don't have anything about it.
What?
We thought we did. And by we, I mean
brought this up on
an
earlier episode, and I thought, wow, that's actually really smart.
We have language in our contract that says that we edit things to a certain style, and that it's our artistic license when it comes to the editing. And then when Jen or I preps them, which is what I was actually thinking of, we say like, we're not going to edit out a ton of stuff. We want the day to be like how it is. If there's anything like above and beyond, it will cost more. We need to get that in the contract, though. Man,
yeah, because I like
damn it,
that
this
idea.
is the one thing I was hoping you would not bring up saying you liked, because I realized as you were saying that, I forgot to put that in the follow-up. Somebody asked me about that today.
Sucks to be you, Steve.
No, I think the wording we always use is like we don't do extraneous edits or something like that when we talk to them. And that when we do editing, it's you know what I was probably confusing it with? I was probably confusing it with our editing service for Bespoke Town and what we say to people when they ask like what we do editing wise, and we say we don't do edits, and it's in like our contract that we don't do like photoshopping unless they pay more money. That's probably why I got confused in the first place. Damn, the second
You're
side
running
business.
too many companies, running too many side hustles.
Dustin, you want to hire me away from all this? You can do it, buddy.
I would in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, Steven. I got your desk space picked out and everything at the new office. I'm going to put a nameplate on it and everything, and a little microphone on the desk. It's going to say the great Steven Van Elk, reserved.
Annie, here's another idea. You haven't pre-gamed this. You haven't said anything to the bride or the groom. You haven't put anything in your contract. There's nothing definite saying you won't do these extra edits. So what do? You do the edit so bad that she doesn't ask you to do it again. So she says, I got these underarm wrinkles. Can you smooth that out? You say, yeah, sure. You get on the internet, you look up Smooth E, the comedian / rapper Eric Schwartz. You take a section of his bald head, copy and paste that right over her underarm wrinkles, send it right back. Now, is she going to ask you to Photoshop anything else, Dustin?
Nope, but she might refer you to her attorney for defamation of her likeness in photo form.
She said she wanted you to smooth out those wrinkles. So you put smooth in. See what I'm saying, Dustin? You didn't do anything wrong. You just took what she said
smooth out.
Literally.
She said to take smooth out, and you put smooth in.
No, she said to take wrinkles out, put smooth in.
So I think what you do is
you smooth it in.
You're having her do too much work, Steve. Send her a link to the smooth character you're referring to and simply say, hey, I actually am familiar with Smooth and I don't see him in the photo you're referencing. Or else
she
I
never
would
said
love
to take
Photoshop him out.
She said to take wrinkles out.
Okay, then find your friend Wrinkles from
find a
Sesame
picture of
Street.
Find a picture of a pug. What is the dog with the wrinkly face? I feel like it's a pug. Find a picture of a pug. Send that back to her and say, I can't find wrinkles anywhere. Is this what you were talking about? This dog?
I didn't even see Wrinkles on that day. He's a sweet, sweet pug. And I don't know why you'd want him taken out of the photos, but if I see him in any of the photos, I'll be sure to edit him out. Kind regards, Annie. Done.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast with your hosts, Dustin and Steve, your favorite anti-American, anti-Christian, prissy, I can't say that word, liberal millennials drinking their odd beer who don't appreciate living in America. That's right, the very same Dustin and Steve. If you want to help us out, jump on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Wedding Photo Hangover or on Twitter at WedPicHangover. Dustin is on Instagram at Dustin_McKibben and Steven is at Steven Van Elk. If you want to get involved with the awesome community of listeners, join the Wedding Hangover Facebook group. But if you really want to warm our hearts, head on over to anchor.fm/wedding photo hangover. There will be a link down in the show notes, and you can sign up to support us for as little as 99 cents a month. It's extremely helpful to us and to the making of this podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time your head is pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being aches for the sweet embrace of death. That's right, next Sunday after you shoot another wedding. Dustin, are you shooting another wedding?
I am. I'm actually in the great city of Indianapolis this Saturday, shooting a fantastic wedding on Monument Circle.
Cool.
But can we take a step back? What is this anti-Christian reference that this fella came up with?
See, people were asking me why I thought this guy who left all these terrible comments, he left that same terrible comment on like several Instagram photos of ours. Like he left it on a bunch. And He says anti-American, anti-Christian, prissy, and then a word I won't say, and I'll replace it with liberal. Millennials drinking their, and then another word probably not going to say, but I'll replace it with odd. And normally that word's fine in my mind, but it's the way he's using it isn't fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, like he means it derogatorily. So, who don't appreciate living in America, and so I'm pretty certain he listened to the podcast. Because
I just want to know which episode.
If he was just looking at our Instagram feed, we never do anything anti-American, anti-Christian. So, man, I'm guessing it was the Snapping episode because the first photo he left a comment on was the one of Tom and Greg.
Is that like a cross emoji he left?
Yeah. Sorry,
but
if you're listening to this and wondering,
of me with my Pokemon hat on.
Yeah, but the first one he commented on was the Snapping one, then that one, then the beer one, and then a bunch of other ones. But I screenshotted before that and then just reported them all and threw them up as... You know what this means, though? This is technically
we're big time.
Our first hater. Yeah, we're big time now. We got haters.
We got haters. Haters gonna hate while players gonna play. Get down with us. Get up with us. Go down around. No?
We're big time.
Yeah. Hold on, Steve. Let me get the mic.
Time.
Big time. Sliding scale of big time.
You lost me with the sliding scale thing. Yeah. But for people who don't know, there's we've got our first hater. Somebody left us a bunch of really terrible remarks on Instagram.
For every one hater, Steven, there's so many great lovers of this podcast, and for that we are so truly grateful. For all of the people who reach out and connect with Steven and sometimes me. We love and appreciate all of you. And if you want to send us some roto lights, we would really be happy to check those out because they look pretty cool.
I have to cut all this. We're done with the podcast. Bye.
Bye. It's the only way I like my balls. Cyber balls.
Wedding Photo Hangover was edited this week by Steve Van Elk of Bespoke Tone. Go to Bespoke Tone for all of your photo, video, and audio editing needs. Woo-wee.